The smugness and groupthink. Up next, live from New York, live from Vietnam, Sean Hannity.
You know, you don't keep track of my schedule. I keep track of your schedule. Anyway,
yes,
thanks, Tucker. Great show.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Sean.
Well, wait till you see what just happened. Just keep watching the monitor for a minute. All right, yes, we're broadcasting live from Hanoi. We are in Vietnam. It is currently 9 a.m. in the morning. Of course, 9 p.m. in our nation's capital, 12-hour time difference. Kim Jong-un, just a short time ago, arrived, and traffic on the streets of Hanoi was awful. All right, so I leave my hotel. 7:15 in the morning here. Only 15-minute drive. After literally 40 minutes not moving, we're getting nervous about getting on the air. Plan B. We're not making this up. I hopped on a scooter with some other staff of mine. Needless to say, it was interesting, chaotic, and kind of fun. Take a look. And by the way, we were riding on the sidewalk there, in case you're interested. All right, we're going to show the full footage of this all coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. And, of course, we will be here all week ahead of President Trump's second critical, hopefully historic summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. The pair are set to negotiate a total, complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula after Kim Jong-un arrived by train following an arduous 3.5-day voyage. Can't somebody buy this guy a plane? Anyway, we'll have more on that historic meeting and a lot of details and why the media, of course, not telling you everything you need to know. Also tonight, we begin the vetting all this week and next of the extreme 2020 Democratic candidates as we examine the radical views tonight of Kamala Harris, the senator from California. Now, later, we have a mini monologue on the double standard between the treatment of Jussie Smollett versus Justice Kavanaugh versus the Covington kids. But we begin tonight with an important Hannity watch on the radical far-left Democratic Party and the dangers of socialism. And we are once again featuring and beginning with the 29-year-old socialist from New York who is both revered and feared inside her own party. Now, a few weeks ago, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called for an end to all fossil fuels, gas-powered cars, airplanes in 10 years, maybe take a little longer, and even cows. Free health care, free child care, free vacations, free paid leave, free higher education, free government healthy food, free. But now she is taking her insane views even a step further, actually questioning whether it's okay for we, the American people, to keep having children all because of climate change. And according to Ocasio-Cortez, the world is going to end in 12 years anyway. Why are we even talking about this? But take a look. This is scary because it's real.
There's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult. And it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is it okay to still have children?
Sitting U.S. member of Congress, a powerful member of our government, questioning whether or not it's okay for we, the American people, to have children. Now, like any good socialist, Ocasio-Cortez loves the heavy, oppressive hand of the federal government, wants to nationalize all business, the healthcare industry, the energy industry, doesn't understand that she'll still need a massive base of future taxpayers if she ever wants to fund this insane Green New Deal fantasies of hers. And according to a think tank, now look at this, led by a former director of the Congressional Budget Office, this Green New Deal could cost up to $93 trillion with a T dollars over 10 years. That's over $65,000 per year for 10 years in additional new taxes for each and every single American household. But she and Kamala Harris say cost shouldn't matter. And Ocasio-Cortez's socialist utopia fantasies are not based in reality. But that's why the Green New Deal has been soundly mocked and criticized by anyone that's thinking. But that doesn't concern Ocasio-Cortez because she's the boss. She says so. Let's take a look.
I just introduced Green New Deal 2 weeks ago, and it's creating all of this conversation. Why? Because no one else has even tried. So people are like, oh, it's unrealistic. Oh, it's vague. Oh, it doesn't address this little minute thing. And I'm like, you try. You do it.
Right.
Because you're not.
Because you're not. So until you do it, I'm the boss.
That's
How about
right.
that?
All right, sitting U.S. Congresswoman declaring she's the boss. Maybe someone might want to give her a copy of the U.S. Constitution so she understands that her boss is you, we, the American people, not the other way around. But what's really scary is how many prominent Democrats and their friends in the hate Trump media mob are lining up to support Ocasio-Cortez and her radical socialist views. Look at this. Over the weekend, the so-called paper of record in America, the New York Times editorial board, endorsed this insane plan. I wonder if they looked at the $93 trillion. They wrote that climate change is now putting our coral reefs and fisheries at risk. They report that ice is melting in Antarctica. It's a crisis, they say, and the only solution is full-on American socialism. Government control of every aspect of your life. The antithesis of freedom. Eric Swalwell, Gerald Nadler, Congresswoman Tlaib, even Bozo O'Rourke backs the bill. And that's not all. Almost all the Democratic presidential candidates, they're on board, including Spartacus, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris. That's right, the current frontrunner in the Democratic Party's bid to challenge President Trump in 2020 backs this $93 trillion destruction of wealth and the American dream. Which brings us tonight to our Hannity Watch on the 2020 radical Democratic candidates. Now, we're going to be vetting them all this week, all next week, and all year. But tonight we're going to begin with Kamala Harris, the California senator, fully supports this $93 trillion bill, end of the oil industry, gas industry, healthcare industry, preventing Americans from eating red meat, abolishing gas-powered cars, airplanes, mandating that every house building in America be rebuilt and renovated for maximum energy efficiency, guaranteed universal income, guaranteed vacations, paid leave for all, higher education. They did so great with K through 12. We pay more per capita than any other country, and we have the worst standards. Guaranteed housing, retirement, all in 10 years. And Elizabeth Warren, guaranteed health care, all with your paid dollars, 93 trillion of them. But when Senator Harris was asked about this unrealistic cost doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What matters is, well, what she says here.
There's no question we have to be practical. But being practical also recognizes that climate change is an existential threat to us as human beings. Being practical recognizes that greenhouse gas emissions are threatening our air and threatening the planet, and that it is well within our capacity as human beings to change our behaviors in a way that we can reduce its effects. That's practical.
Can we afford it?
Of course we can afford it.
Now, this is just one part of Senator Harris's radical vision to reshape the United States into a socialist utopia. Again, no country on the face of earth has created more wealth, more opportunity, more prosperity for anybody in the free world. We have increased the world's wealth because of our democratic republic. Anyway, take a look.
We need to have Medicare for all. That's just the bottom line. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. We've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing. And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Education is a fundamental right. And we will guarantee that right with universal pre-K and debt-free college.
That's right. No tax rate is too high. Confiscation, redistribution, statism, socialism, redistribution, to each according to his need, from each according to his ability. Now, in Senator Harris, this ideal world of hers, we would all make her government rich and powerful, every aspect of our lives. Get ready, because she's coming, as rest of these socialist, extreme, radical Democrats, for your wallet. But Kamala Harris really isn't different from any other prominent far left wing who will vilify wealth, success, opportunity, risk reward, capitalism, while making millions of dollars and enjoying the lap of luxury. Let's look at Vermont socialist, our friend Bernie Sanders, probably one of the worst offenders. Let's see, he owns 3 houses. They kind of look like mansions to me, making more than $1 million last year. Sanders has been an outspoken advocate for big government climate change policies, but he just loves riding around in a private jet. What about the carbon emissions? According to one Clinton campaign official, which, by the way, is a joke considering she traveled around in private jets. I saw it on the campaign trail, just like Al Gore, we caught him on a private jet. Said about the 2016 election season, His Royal Majesty King Bernie Sanders would only deign to leave his plush D.C. office or his brand new second home on the lake if he was flown around on a cushy private jet, like a billionaire, master of the universe, like the Clintons. And since 2016, the socialist has racked up $342,000 in private flights. And while demanding that we, the American people, we devote our life savings to battling climate change. And let's just recap what the 2020 Democrats are pushing for. Nearly all of them, open borders, eliminate ICE. Some want existing border walls torn down. They want to kill off private insurance. 187 million of us Americans will be affected and impacted because they want Medicare for all, but that's your only choice. End of the oil and gas industry, when for the first time because of President Trump, we have achieved energy independence in almost 70 years. And there's going to be so many tens and tens on hundreds of thousands of jobs, career-paying jobs, once we get the two pipelines, Dakota, Keystone, online. These presidents opened up ANWR. That makes us energy independent and the world freer, and we're not dependent on countries that hate our guts any longer for the lifeblood of our economy. Look at Elizabeth Warren pushing a wealth tax on your savings. In other words, you've already paid taxes on that money. She wants another bite at the apple. And when you die, even another bite at the apple, 40% worth. Another 10% if you live in New York. So you have Warren and Senator Kamala Harris. They're even now supporting reparations. And they want free health care, free child care, free vacations, free higher education, even college, free healthy government food. Again, does this sound realistic to you? In the real world, nothing is free. Democrats want to increase government's power by what is an extreme and very dangerous amount. They want more of your money, more control over your personal decisions, a massive regulation of your business, and they think we, the people, are stupid, helpless, uneducated. We're not smart enough to pick up on this. They think they can spend your hard-earned money better than you ever could for your kids, for your family. And that's why you hear commentary like this from, geniuses like Bill Maher. Take a look.
There are two Americas, and it seems like one is where all the cool jobs are, where people drive Teslas and eat artisanal ice cream. We have orchestras and theater districts and world-class shopping. We have Chef Wolfgang Puck. They have Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
Our roofs have solar panels. Theirs have last year's Christmas lights. The flyover states have become the passed-over states. That's why red state voters are so pissed off. They don't hate us. They want to be us.
Didn't he donate like $1 million to the Democratic election? Oh, yeah. What you see from Maher, very skewed, far-left narrative of what America and the people who live here are really like. By the way, Bernie Sanders, Bill Maher, they can open up their homes. They can bring in all the homeless people they want. Nancy Pelosi is a multi-millionaire. It's the reason why they are so quick to report obvious hate crime hoaxes that put the president, his supporters in a negative light, totally ignoring real examples of Trump supporters getting attacked. Last week, we showed you the assault and battery. But guess what? Yet again, story almost totally, completely ignored by other outlets. Doesn't fit their narrative. Hate Trump. Media mob. All things negative. And we'll have more on this coming up. And by the way, we're going to talk a lot about, really? This week, Democrats? They're going to put Michael Cohen on 3 committees while the president is trying to negotiate a nuclear deal that would denuclearize the entire Korean peninsula here in Vietnam. Now, we've come a long way, by the way, in just a short period of time. 2 years, 2017, President Trump took the reins from Obama on the brink of war with, of course, North Korea, the situation in Asia, a global catastrophe in the making, Kim Jong-un threatening to blow up Guam, shooting one missile after another over Japan, threatening to attack the continental United States and its allies on a daily basis. You probably won't hear this in the hate Trump media, mob media, but the president's peace through strength policies has been overwhelmingly successful. The president deployed multiple aircraft, strike groups to the region, increased sanctions, squeezed North Korea's only ally, China, and making progress, as he talked about this weekend. The missiles haven't been fired in, what, 15 months? The threats have stopped. Kim Jong-un is back at the table discussing denuclearization. We got our hostages back. We got, what, the remains from the Korean War? And, of course, the president's given nothing in return to them. Yet the hate Trump Democrats' sick focus is back at home in the United States on the president's former attorney. You know, they do this the week when the president is in Vietnam about something significant. I thought they said envision peace. Denuclearization, frankly, a sick, ugly, psychotic example of hate Trump derangement syndrome. Now, by the way, don't forget Michael Cohen. We know he's going to jail for 3 years. Admitted to lying to Congress and on loan applications and tax fraud. He's going to spend years in prison. Really? You can't leave him and his family alone? And by the way, members of Congress hauling him up there to what? For more hearings, 3 of them? Well, how about maybe you think about, this was the president's attorney, and when you think about the charges that he's faced, maybe it's time for the conspiracy-driven, obsessive hatred for this president to once and for all come to an end. And everyone around him needs to stop this because it's not going to accomplish anything for the country. All right, joining us now in Vietnam, Fox News contributor Dan Bongino, former Clinton pollster Mark Penn. Good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for making the long journey. 25 hours from wheels up to wheels down.
I still can't get over the scooter thing. I'm sitting there in the room and I think they're making it up. They go, he's getting on a scooter.
Okay.
I swear I thought they were kidding.
So I left an hour and 45 minutes for what is a 15-minute ride.
That is some of the best video.
We were not moving.
I know. I saw it in there.
So I'm like, I'm not missing my show.
It reminds me of the Secret Service. Everything's like hurry up and wait, but even in news, it's the same thing.
No,
it's like,
crazy.
and then they just made it happen. So.
All right, let's start. We're going to get to the whole North Korea issue in detail, and you're going to be here with us with Dan Hoffman all week analyzing it. But look what's going on back at home.
Yeah.
This is not a small fraction of the Democratic Party. This is a huge fraction.
You know what bothers me about it? What bothers me about Bernie is not that he owns a lake house. What bothers me about Bernie is he's a guy who owns a lake house who rails against people who own lake houses. I'm a capitalist, Sean.
And use private planes.
Knock yourself out. Get a private jet. What do the kids call them? The PJs. Knock it out. Do your thing. Just stop haunting everyone else about it. And then this whole idea with Kamala Harris, I'm glad you played that. Cost doesn't matter. Are you for real?
Ocasio-Cortez said the same thing.
You put the 93
trillion.
I mean, people can't even grasp that number. You put a key number in that prompter: $65,000 per household per year. Who's got that kind of money laying around?
Nobody.
That is extraordinary.
And how did keep your doctor, your plan, and save money work out? Not well for the American people. All right, let me go to our friend Mark Penn. You were a pollster for the Clintons. You're listening to your Democratic Party. I mean, the era of big government and of welfare as we know it, that came from your candidate. This is not the party of Bill Clinton.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, I think as a moderate Democrat, and I've seen the party with Bill Clinton be really firmly in the center, what's happening today is alarming. I mean, I have a poll coming out tomorrow in which people are asked, do you think the Democratic Party is mostly socialist or mostly capitalist? And 57% said mostly socialist. This is alarming what's happening to the image of the Democratic Party. The new Green Deal is maybe a new Red Deal.
No, it's not alarming at all. This is great. I like all
great.
this because
great
I
for you,
think
but it's alarming for
Ocasio-Cortez
Democrats.
is. Well, but the problem is, look at we're talking about, Mark, 100+ Democrats supporting this stuff. And most of the 2020.
Yeah. That's right. And I'm totally surprised by that because, if you look through the deal, it calls for, the end of aircraft and air travel, private or not, right? The end of beef, the complete reorganization. And who would run trillions of dollars of programs? Only selected communities. It's the end of democracy. There's so much in there that you would think that sensible Democratic candidates would say, I think climate change is a key problem. I think weapons for North Korea and Iran are an existential problem. But let's put this in perspective and do the right thing.
I'm looking at all of this, and, they're not going to listen to Mark. They're not going to listen to Doug Schoen. This is now I see these 2020 candidates as recognizing this is their base.
Yeah.
They want to win the nomination. They've got to do all this hard left, and they mean it, though. That's what they really believe.
But, Sean, they've tried this before. Remember the Reagan re-elect, where Mondale thought it would be a good idea to run on raising taxes. He got smoked. He lost 49 out of 50 states. Bill Clinton came in. Now, I'm not a Clinton fan, but the Democrat Leadership Committee, remember that? They came in.
The first 2 years, Hillary care.
Yeah, and then they had to
and then he adjusted.
They had to. And again, I'm not defending Clinton. I'm just saying he understood that to maintain power, this radical far-left lurch they'd taken was not going to work. They were going to get annihilated. He got crushed in the first midterm. And Sean, these costs are real. I saw a study about the land it would take for her solar panel plan to get off petrochemicals. It would be the entire landmass of California and Texas. So if you got a home in California or Texas, get ready to move out for solar panels.
You know, Mark, as I look at this, your party has really been co-opted now, but I think it's been something that's been building for a long, long time. And while Democrats hid where they stood in 2018, now they're just bragging about it. And, you know, Bill Clinton lost, what, 60 seats in his first midterm and 8 Senate and what, 52 House seats. Obama lost 63 House seats and 6 Senate seats. Trump gained seats in the Senate and, what, 39, 40 seats he lost in the House. Nothing in comparison.
Well, there's a long way till we see who the actual nominee is. We've been through several cycles where the Republicans had a lot of far-out ideas in the Republican primaries, and then people like Romney would actually get the nomination. So let's see. But I agree with you. These issues are not going to really be in the mainstream, and they're really surprising. I'm sticking with my Democratic credentials, but we've got a long way to go here. There'll be a good nominee. They will be a good nominee from the Democratic Party. Don't worry about it.
We'll see.
You know, AOC got 15,000 votes in the Bronx primary. She's not the leader of the party yet.
Yeah, it'll be a good nominee, but I think for us, if this stuff keeps up, a good nominee for the Republicans.
You know what? The fact that they're not even focused on peace and, like Mark Pence, denuclearization, the Korean Peninsula, that's sad. All right, coming up. Well, they weren't patting themselves on the back at Ocasio-Cortez last night. Hollywood liberals were taking shots at the president. We're going to tell you how the president responded in a mini monologue coming up next. Also, more on my day in Vietnam. Literally, this is true. I would not be here but for that motorcycle, or what do you call it, vest. While the Oscars were surprisingly less political than some recent years, it still included a few shots at the border wall. Oh, and then there's director, pretty angry, Spike Lee, just couldn't help himself but bring up 2020. Let's take a look.
The 2020 presidential election is around the corner. Let's all mobilize. Let's all be on the right side of history. Make the moral choice between love versus hate. Let's do the right thing.
He's endorsing President Trump. All right, President responded, it'd be nice if Lee could read his notes, or better yet, not have to use notes at all when doing his racist hit on your president, who has done more for African Americans, criminal justice reform, lowest unemployment numbers in history, tax cuts, than almost any other president. That's what records are. Ask yourself, why is it Hollywood is consumed with so much, just like the media, anti-Trump hatred, vitriol? Because remember, they all claim to be about compassion, helping those in need. Wouldn't they like to see the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula? The president's doing that, creating jobs, opportunity, record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, and a record low youth unemployment. They seem to ignore that, giving people a second chance at success. Look at this. Remember Alice Marie Johnson? And her sentence was commuted. One-time offender. President Trump did that. Just last month, the first beneficiary of his prison reform bill, Matthew Charles, released after spending decades in prison for a nonviolent drug offense. Another accomplishment. The previous presidents, well, they made the promise. They never delivered on the promise. Remember Barack Obama, Hollywood fawning over him? He never got prison reform done. He never had record low unemployment like this. No, he added 13 million more Americans to food stamps, 8 million more Americans in poverty. And whether we're talking about trade, job creation, energy independence, immigration, protecting our country, tax cuts, record low, and Supreme Court, yes, conservative originalists, as promised, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, putting an end to the ridiculous, insane Iranian deal, and dumping $150 million to the mullahs of Iran. Effective diplomacy, trade deals, Canada, now happening with China, Mexico, and even negotiating better NATO deals. So the president's delivering victory after victory for the forgotten men and women of the country. And by the way, if Hollywood would just stop reading off their anti-Trump, hate, psychotic script, maybe they'd see all the progress that's being made. Instead, they and their cohorts in the hate Trump media mob, they rather focus on fake news, rushing to judgment, like in the Jussie Smollett case, in the smearing of Nick Sandmann and his Covington Catholic high school classmates. Because now we're learning that there's even more evidence that police say exposes him as a liar. Let's take a look.
You know, and it's important for people to recognize that it's not the Chicago police saying he did something. It's the evidence, the facts, and the witnesses that are saying this. But I can tell you this, Rob, there's a lot more evidence that hasn't been presented yet that does not support the version that he gave. There's still a lot of physical evidence, video evidence, and testimony that just simply doesn't support his version of what happened.
Best press conference I ever saw. That's the superintendent of police in Chicago. I believe his name is Eddie Johnson. Amazing. Now, of course, Smollett still has the presumption of innocence until convicted in a court of law. We remain steadfast. But the evidence that the police are revealing appears overwhelming at this point. And while the media in Hollywood were busy rushing to judgment on Smollett, wrongly attacking conservatives, ignoring actual instance of political violence against a pro-Trump activist. As we covered last week, conservative Hayden Williams recently attacked at UC Berkeley at the campus while recruiting for Sean Spicer. All right, Sean, we start with you tonight. You know, really? You know, we won't even raise the question in these other instances.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, can I just, a couple points. Number one, the story from the get-go was that an individual, when it was, what, minus 30 degrees in Chicago, is running around attacking someone wearing a MAGA hat. Which on itself wasn't really believable. But the second thing is, if you're going to stage a crime, don't write a check to the people that you're staging it with, which is what apparently he did. So, I mean, this really goes to show you that it didn't take much to uncover that it really wasn't a crime to begin with, that what he had alleged. So, you know, to your point, there should be further outrage about what's going on the right. So many of these people that claim tolerance and inclusion really only mean when it includes them and their point of view. When it is against conservatives or people who support the president, they've quite a different tune to sing.
You know, Larry, you're great at you have a memory bank that's like second to none, Larry. All the instances of hypocrisy. If I ask you for the list, you're going to go down it right now from memory.
May I? I think,
go ahead.
Sean,
yes.
that I think President Trump was classy not to nail Spike Lee with all the offensive, racist, outrageous things Spike Lee has said. For example, Spike Lee once said he didn't like interracial couples. When he sees them on the streets, he gives them, quote, visual daggers, close quote, to make them feel uncomfortable. Now, if David Duke said that, we'd call it racist. Spike Lee said it, nobody cared. Spike Lee also criticized whites for moving into Harlem. He compared them to Christopher Columbus offing Native Americans. Really? If whites move into Harlem, that's racist? And Spike Lee also said about Trent Lott, the senator from Mississippi, when he praised Strom Thurmond on his 100th birthday, he said, Trent Lott on Good Morning America is a, quote, straight-up member of the Klan. I bet he has a hood somewhere in his closet, end of quote. Even Diane Sawyer thought that was outrageous, but he's never apologized for it. So he said all sorts of outrageous things and gotten away with it. Nobody says a word.
Listen to Larry's list just on Spike Lee, Sean. It's amazing.
Well, it is. But, I mean, look, is anyone shocked? I actually was somewhat pleased at the level that it wasn't as much as it could have been last night. There were a few comments from folks who are generally pretty wild in their comments when they come up. Look, I actually think there's a lot of great movies this year and a lot of really good actors in them. I wish they would stick to talking about their art and their profession and stop trying to be political pundits. If they want to do it, there's plenty of opportunity to come out here and write and do punditry. They should stick to acting and filmmaking and focus on that. That's what people are going to see. They want to see their art and their film, not their political point of view. And the less of it there is, maybe the more respect that they'll get for the actual product that they put out.
Well said. Last word, Larry.
all of the Spike Lee's Sour Grapes after he lost Best Director and Best Picture. Green Book was an amazing movie. My 95-year-old friend of my mom is named Ruth Jeffries. I asked her if she wanted me to take her to see that movie yesterday morning, and she said no. She's from Alabama. She said, I don't need to see it. I lived it. It was a great, great movie, and for Spike Lee to be upset that his didn't win, Sour Grapes, petulance, childishness.
Yeah. All right, good to see you both. Great. That mind is like a memory chip for both of you. All right, why are we in Hanoi? Why are we in Vietnam? The president meeting with Kim Jong-un again hasn't gotten started yet, but the hate Trump media, they're already criticizing it. Shocking. We're going to expose the double standard. And, by the way, an update. Jorge Ramos is in Venezuela. Scary situation, apparently under arrest. And you're not going to believe my scooter ride. We'll get to that and much more straight ahead from Hanoi. We're in Vietnam. Best coverage of the summit straight ahead. So Fox News alert as we continue reporting tonight from Hanoi, Vietnam. Jorge Ramos, 6 other Univision staffers detained at the presidential palace in Venezuela. This allegedly occurred after an interview with the Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. According to reports, Maduro didn't like the line of questioning, so he ended the interview, confiscated the equipment, and had Ramos, along with his colleagues, arrested. We do have an update. Thankfully, 3 hours later, the group was released. We'll continue to monitor this disturbing story, but I got to tell you, you know what? I don't agree with Jorge on a lot of issues. He's an American. More on the Trump-Kim summit coming up later this week. It is yet to take place, but a hate Trump media mob already hasn't gotten here, criticizing the president. Watch this.
Just as he's meeting with Kim Jong-un, Michael Cohen is on Capitol Hill. He has 2 private meetings and 1 public testimony on Capitol Hill. How could that impact the negotiations we see in North Korea? What could we see the president give away?
I think the president's just looking for good press. I mean, let's just be frank. He felt like he got a good press after the last one, and he figures another photo op might do that.
Did the president say that he loved Kim Jong-un again this weekend?
They have this,
love and kisses? Did he? I don't know.
It's unreal. Now, back in the real world, the president is making progress with our Asian counterparts. President tweeted, quote, today, China trade deal and more in advanced stages. Relationship between the 2 countries very strong. I've therefore agreed to delay the U.S. tariff hikes. Let's see what happens. Here now with reaction in Vietnam. Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry and Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman. How many years in the CIA?
A lot, Ed.
Okay.
Can't tell you.
No, you can't tell you. But the thing is, everything we do. No, you can't do that. No, you're being hacked. No, you're in the shower. They're videotaping you. You scare the crap out of everybody.
I thought we finished the shower talk on the radio this morning, Sean.
We did. All right. Look, you were making fun of my scooter trip.
No, I want to talk about
here.
this. I want to make a confession. I was here during the drama when your producers were running around saying he might not make air. They were like, Henry, get in the anchor chair. He might not make it. So I was hoping this was my big break.
You were going to do the Hannity monologue?
Yeah, I was ready to do the monologue. So when you got here, I was glad to see you, but not that glad.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
You know, we're here for an important reason. And, you know, we just mentioned the Cohen. 3 hearings this week with Michael Cohen. Really? This week? This week, when you think of all that is at stake, no more missiles fired, hostages returned, remains returned, president gives up nothing, and serious opportunity for a lasting peace and more safety for the world. That's how sick these people are.
Let me take a look at that from the optic of Kim Jong-un, because what he's doing is looking at the president and the challenges that he's facing domestically. And so he's seeing that Cohen is going to be testifying this week, and he's going to factor that into his own negotiations this week. There's no question about that.
You mean Kim Jong-un?
Kim Jong-un is, absolutely.
You know, first of all, you know, these Democrats don't care about him. You know what? The guy's going to jail. He's got the hardest time in his life. Yeah. Putting that aside, really, the former attorney of the president. Right. Okay.
That was what was palpable almost. Even when you listen to someone like Spike Lee, you sort of sense the grievance. A guy who's getting a statuette for making a movie, and he somehow feels obliged to talk about America's genocide of its native people, is sort of oddly trivial. If you seriously believe it's genocide, it's actually trivializing of that. to connect it to you getting some crummy award for Best Adapted Screenplay. I don't think there's anything serious about this. They've taken out all the joy, all the charm, all the wit, all the fun, and they haven't found anything to put in its place.
Wow. I don't even, they've lost the power even to offend me. that's
Sorry,
how banal it is.
That's a downer, Tucker. I should do 8 bars of Hooray for Hollywood like the old days, but we don't have that anymore.
Mark Stein, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m., the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. Up next, live from New York, live from Vietnam, Sean Hannity.
You know, you don't keep track of my schedule. I keep track of your schedule. Anyway,
Yes,
thanks,
I
Tucker.
do.
Great show.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Sean.
Well, wait till you see what just happened. Just keep watching the monitor for a minute. All right, yes, we're broadcasting live from Hanoi. We are in Vietnam. It is currently 9 a.m. in the morning. Of course, 9 p.m. in our nation's capital, 12-hour time difference. Kim Jong-un, just a short time ago, arrived, and traffic on the streets of Hanoi was awful. All right, so I leave my hotel. 7:15 in the morning here. Only 15-minute drive. After literally 40 minutes not moving, we're getting nervous about getting on the air. Plan B. We're not making this up. I hopped on a scooter with some other staff of mine. Needless to say, it was interesting, chaotic, and kind of fun. Take a look. And by the way, we were riding on the sidewalk there, in case you're interested. All right, we're going to show the full footage of this all coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. And, of course, we will be here all week ahead of President Trump's second critical, hopefully historic summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. The pair are set to negotiate a total, complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula after Kim Jong-un arrived by train following an arduous 3.5-day voyage. Can't somebody buy this guy a plane? Anyway, we'll have more on that historic meeting and a lot of details and why the media, of course, not telling you everything you need to know. Also tonight, we begin the vetting all this week and next of the extreme 2020 Democratic candidates as we examine the radical views tonight of Kamala Harris, the senator from California. Now, later, we have a mini monologue on the double standard between the treatment of Justice Smollett versus Justice Kavanaugh versus the Covington kids. But we begin tonight with an important Hannity watch on the radical far-left Democratic Party and the dangers of socialism. And we are once again featuring and beginning with the 29-year-old socialist from New York who is both revered and feared inside her own party. Now, a few weeks ago, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called for an end to all fossil fuels, gas-powered cars, airplanes in 10 years, maybe take a little longer, and even cows. Free health care, free child care, free vacations, free paid leave, free higher education, free government healthy food, free. But now she is taking her insane views even a step further, actually questioning whether it's okay for we, the American people, to keep having children all because of climate change. And according to Ocasio-Cortez, the world is going to end in 12 years anyway. Why are we even talking about this? But take a look. This is scary because it's real.
There's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult. And it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is